Before we dive in, let me leave you with a truth that echoes across every chapter in human history. Nothing we are began in silence. Every civilization, every story, every ancestor left a trail of wisdom waiting to be rediscovered. What you are about to hear is a part of a legacy, preserved, decoded, and brought back to the forefront. I'm OG Mooney. Welcome to AI Legacy Lab.
Long before our own ancestors, Homo sapiens, ventured out to conquer the globe, another kind of human walked the earth. They navigated icy winds, lived in the shadows of towering mountains, and possessed a strength forged by the unforgiving cold. Their minds were far deeper, far more complex than the brutish myths would have us believe. These were the Neanderthals. For hundreds of thousands of years, they were the dominant human presence across the vast expanse of Eurasia. They were a people of incredible resilience, a human family shaped in the crucible of the Ice Age for generations. Our popular imagination painted them as simple, hunched-over cavemen, little more than beasts. But the truth, slowly and painstakingly pieced together from ancient bones, fragments of DNA, and artifacts buried for millennia, tells a completely different story. This is the story of a people capable of profound complexity, of art, of empathy, of community, and of survival on a level that was truly unmatched in their time. They weren't a dead end or a failed experiment in evolution. They were a vital, powerful chapter in the grand story of humanity. Imagine a world locked in the grip of ice. This was the world the Neanderthals inherited and mastered. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving. They built shelters, sometimes in caves, but also in the open, using mammoth bones and animal hides to create structures that could withstand the brutal elements. Their command of fire was absolute. It was their source of warmth against the biting cold, a tool to cook their food, a weapon to keep predators at bay, and a hearth around which they gathered, shared stories, and strengthened their social bonds. Fire was the center of their world, a beacon of life in a frozen landscape, and their tools were a testament to their ingenuity. We often hear about the Stone Age, but what does that really mean? For Neanderthals, it meant an intimate understanding of rock and its properties. They perfected a technique known as the Levallois method, a sophisticated way of preparing a stone core to strike off a flake of a predetermined size and shape. This wasn't just banging rocks together. It was a multi-step process that required forethought, planning, and a deep transmissible knowledge passed down through generations. These weren't just simple hand axes. They were specialized blades, scrapers, and spear points, each designed for a specific task. From butchering a woolly rhino to preparing a soft hide for clothing, the evidence for their hunting prowess is undeniable. They were apex predators, strategically targeting large and dangerous game like mammoths, woolly rhinos, and giant cave bears. This wasn't reckless bravery. It was calculated, cooperative hunting. Fossil evidence shows Neanderthals with healed injuries that would have been debilitating, fractures, and wounds that could only have been survived if they were cared for by their group. This is one of the most powerful indicators of their humanity: compassion. They didn't abandon their sick or injured. They nursed them back to health. They looked after the elderly, individuals who could no longer hunt but held a lifetime of knowledge and experience. This was a society built on community and mutual support. Perhaps most astonishingly, the old image of the mute grunting caveman has been completely shattered. We now have evidence that Neanderthals had a capacity for symbolic thought, the very foundation of art, language, and religion. In caves across Spain, archaeologists have discovered abstract symbols and hand stencils painted on walls tens of thousands of years before the arrival of modern humans. They drilled holes in shells and eagle talons, stringing them together to create personal ornaments jewelry. These weren't for survival. They were for expression, for identity, for beauty. They buried their dead with care, sometimes in specific positions, occasionally with grave goods like tools or animal horns. This suggests they had rituals, a way of grappling with life, death, and perhaps even an afterlife. The very structure of their hyoid bone, a small bone in the throat crucial for speech, is virtually identical to our own, strongly suggesting they were physically capable of producing a complex range of sounds, the building blocks of language. Then, around 60,000 years ago, a new group of humans began to spread out of Africa. Our ancestors, Homo sapiens. For millennia, these two distinct human populations, the Neanderthals of Eurasia and the sapiens from Africa, coexisted. They met, they interacted, and something extraordinary happened. They didn't just compete for resources, they connected. Genetic analysis of ancient and modern human DNA has proven, beyond any doubt, that they interbred. They shared their lives, their knowledge, and their bloodlines. This ancient mixing has left a permanent living legacy within us. Today, every person of non-African descent carries a small but significant percentage of Neanderthal DNA in their genome, typically between 1 and 4%. These aren't just junk genes. They are functional, active parts of our biology. Fragments of Neanderthal DNA influence a surprising range of our modern traits. Some of these genes are linked to our immune system, providing us with ready-made defenses against pathogens that our African ancestors had never encountered. Other genes affect our hair and skin, influencing texture and color, perhaps as an adaptation to different levels of sunlight in northern latitudes. Even our body's response to cold climates and our susceptibility to certain allergies can be traced back to this ancient inheritance. We carry the echoes of the Neanderthals within our very cells. So, what happened to them? Why did they disappear from the fossil record around 40,000 years ago? This is one of the greatest mysteries in human prehistory, and there's likely no single simple answer. The end of the Neanderthals was probably a slow, complex process, a convergence of multiple factors. The climate was shifting dramatically, becoming colder and more unstable, which would have disrupted the ecosystems they relied upon. Perhaps the incoming modern humans, with their slightly different technologies and social structures, were just numerous enough to outcompete them for dwindling resources over the long run. Or maybe they didn't truly vanish at all. Maybe, in a way, they were absorbed. As the two populations met and mixed, the much larger modern human population may have simply assimilated the smaller Neanderthal groups over thousands of years. Their unique physical features faded as their genes blended into our own expanding gene pool. It might not have been a dramatic extinction event, but a slow, quiet merging of two streams of humanity into one great river. Their disappearance wasn't a failure, but a transformation. By remembering the Neanderthals, we do more than just correct an old scientific error. We gain a deeper, richer understanding of our own story. They were not a side story or a mistake in evolution. They were a parallel line of humanity, a sibling lineage that walked a different path for a time, but ultimately contributed to the people we are today. Their story teaches us that the journey of humanity is not a simple, linear progression, but a complex, branching tree with deep interconnected roots. In honoring their strength, their intelligence, and their resilience, we honor the incredible complexity of our shared past and acknowledge the ancient connections that bind every single human being to one another across the rise and fall of ages. They are a part of us, and their story is our story. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into our deep past as fascinating as I did, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories about our incredible human history. We'll see you next time.
Another chapter reclaimed, another piece of history placed back where it belongs. If you have found any meaning in this, let it sit with you. Let it sharpen your vision, not just for the past, but for who we are becoming. I'm OG Mooney, and this is AI Legacy Lab. Honoring truth, protecting legacy, one story at a time. Until next time, stay curious.